Hello, I hope y'all are all doing great. Glad to see so many of you joining us here. We've got some exciting things to show off in ShoWorks auction tonight. If you can hear me, someone just shoot me a chat, just making sure that you can hear me loud and clear and that you can see my shared screen. It's always good to make sure I've got it set up right from the first. Thank you, Bonnie. All right. So today I am going to be talking about sponsorships, fair branding, buyer registration, and spotter tools. It's a little bit of everything that is kind of new process and new functionality that we wanted to make sure that you were aware of. As always, www.fairsoftware.com/auction. We are going to be using the demo auction at the top of that. So feel free to go right over to it and click on it. It will bring you to this page, participate in a demo auction now. If you'd like to go ahead and register as a buyer, you can log in, new buyer, register here, and enter your contact information to be able to bid against me while we do the demo. All right, let's see. So most of you are familiar with our auction site, the fact that we have pictures available, and you can get text messages when you are outbid as a buyer. You can also get a congratulations text when you have won, so individuals know and they're notified that they have won. This is the bidding process. Currently, we still have the necessary requirement that you do select a destination at the time that you're bidding. We have special configuration you can do if you're doing a premium only sale to make that happen. I'm going to go ahead and go over to just a quick overview for those of you that are new to us. You have the ability to do an auction however you want to do it. We have lots of auctions that set up without an auctioneer. They utilize the system for add-ons only, or they do silent auction items or freezer sales that all close at one time. We have virtual auctioneer options where the system actually closes the lots for you, and they close every few minutes that you set them to close. And there's extensions available so that you can maximize the competitive bidding in that virtual auction setting. And then most of our customers are actually going with the live auctioneer option, where truly hybrid, you have a live auctioneer driving the close of those auction items. And you have the correct roles in place at your live setting in order to enable that live auctioneer to maximize the bids and recognize the online bids. We also have the spotter tool that I'm going to show at the end of this that allows for your online bids and your in-person bids to compete against each other. So that's where the majority of individuals shows are going right now, trending that direction. They're seeing a increase in about 20% revenue by doing it, holding their auctions in that manner. You already have ShoWorks auction if you have ShoWorks. If you have ShoWorks 2020 in place, which the majority ShoWorks customers do, and you are accepting your entries via online entries, the only thing that is needed is to upload photos. That is done through FairVault. You create your sale like you would normally, and then we provision the auction. And the data is there. A lot of what I talk about in the webinars is how to configure that data to make it easy breezy when it comes time for auction day. I showed this in my last webinar, and I am going to just show it right now just to give an overview of how all of the systems interact. Online entries in FairVault are viewed in the same online entries login that you are accustomed to seeing. You know, everything starts with the hub of ShoWorks 2020. You have a setup that is uploaded into online entries. Those entries are downloaded back into ShoWorks. And then after you have conducted your show, set your sale order, you provision your auction over into the auction. At the same time, you can be working your photos and setting those up in online entries that are stored in Fair Vault, and then they get pulled into the auction. They are tied to the data and the lots because a WEN, W-E-N, ID is created at the time you create that online entry. That's the most important piece that gets created, originating your entries and online entries, and then everything knows to tie with it all the way through to the auction. And then after the auction, your data flows back through a .auction file that is given to you by our support team. And you upload that to include your buyers, sales transactions, buyer transactions, and any updates to your entries. I have updated the playbook, and I will actually be producing a new playbook at the end of this week that will be a little bit more succinct, including these checklists, but it includes the list of every little thing that needs to be or can be configured for auction setup. So when you get that playbook in your inbox, definitely always go to that link and get the latest copy of it so that you can see any modifications that might have been made, enhancements that we've made. But it includes lists like this of what you need to update and configure in ShoWorks, and it has it divided by time, what you can do anytime, what you can do after the show, and after your sale order is set. So this list is extremely helpful if you're trying to make sure that you have everything you need to configure your auction. This is an exciting piece, sponsor recognition. So one of the things that had been asked for is the ability to display your sponsors on your website. Our initial rollout, this first phase, we are actually rolling out the ability to tap into the existing division setup for sponsors that you already have within ShoWorks. I'm going to go to a live view of it so that you can see what it looks like. On the sample 2, you'll see every 10 seconds, this sponsor banner is going to rotate. And each of these sponsor banners are clickable images that you upload, and they are available for visibility here at the top of the auction. And this includes, this is including every single division sponsor. If you click on any given lot, you can see for Market Steers, Fair Vault is the sponsor. And if you click on Market Barrows, the ShoWorks Passport is the sponsor. Download the free app if you are already using it. What else? Fair Vault is on our Market Goats and maybe our Rabbits Passport. You can tell exactly what I put in there. Actually put everything in there. ShoWorks 2020. Click on it. Everything is clickable, and it's going to take you to whatever URL you have loaded. This right here goes straight to the ShoWorks 2020 advertisement that is out there. Check it out. The other thing that is possible in sponsorships is the ability to add a lot sponsor as well as a special placing sponsor. This one has a lot sponsor of Ford Motor Company. On the, you can see here where Reserve Champion, Hampshire sponsors, you can list additional sponsors. These sponsors are the words only. They are not clickable. They are truly just the words. I'm going to show you where these items get configured. In ShoWorks, under Setup, in Divisions, there's already the online options. You can see the sponsor name, sponsor website, and sponsor banner URL. Let me go to a division that actually has. There we go. So our market barrows, you're going to enter the sponsor name. You're going to enter the website that you want this individual, whenever anyone clicks, this is where they're going, the URL they're headed to. And then there is the sponsorship banner JPEG. I'm going to send out instructions on how to do that. Actually, if one of my assistants, if y'all can go to the knowledge base and pull up sponsorships, it's going to have the instructions of exactly how to create that sponsorship banner URL in the case that you don't know how to do that. So I'm not going to go into that today, but it is a process of, you know, getting your sponsor's logo and making sure it's the right size, the 468 by 60 pixels, and creating a URL for that. So if somebody can grab that and throw that in the chat, I'm sure everyone will be appreciative. So this is exactly how you drive the pictures that are appearing on the division. The next place is on Points and Premium table. You can set up for your divisions, your special placing, and indicate which value for that special placing should receive a specific sponsorship. In this case, my market barrows, I actually have, let's see, 2 for Grand Champion, Brookshire Brothers, and Extraco Banks. And then I have 1 for the Reserve Grand Champion, John Deere. And that is where each of those are going to appear on the lot when you click only the words of that sponsor in that section. The third place is going to be on your actual entries. If you want them to have a sponsor, then you can type the sponsor in there and it's going to appear on the website. So let me just go back real quick and review that with you. You can see the sponsor, the division sponsors picture is going to appear across the top, and you have lot sponsors and other sponsors appearing there. This is phase 1. I'm really excited about other sponsorship stuff to come, but we wanted to get this pushed out as quickly as possible. That way y'all could maximize your sponsorships. The next thing I'm going to show is fair branding. Before, the ShoWorks rabbit was everywhere, and that's great if you're ShoWorks, but y'all are wanting to white label and make sure that people know that they're coming to the Angelina County auction. So what we have done, well, I should go to a good example for y'all, but you have the ability to load your logo. It'll appear on your login page. It'll appear on your new buyer registration, and it will even appear, I'm going to show an example of Navarro that's taking place right now. It'll even appear in the case that a photo has not been loaded. It will appear on that lot just to kind of give some more cohesiveness and to that look and feel of your auction. The place that this gets loaded is in your online entries. Let me jump into my online entries. Under settings, and there is a place to upload your logo, and you'll enter it here, and then it gets saved right down here. So that's exactly where the logo is being fed from. You do not need to re-provision in order for that to appear. This gets loaded and it's going to be, it's going to show up in all of those spots. So we're excited to add that branding for your fairs. Very exciting. Let's see. Next, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the buyer journey. So if you did utilize the auction in the past, then you were doing pre-registration in one place, you had your buyer list in another place, you were merging them, we were putting them over to the auction site. There was a lot of places for you to try and manage the data, and everything was very time dependent. Well, we have come up with a much cleaner process for your buyers, because we all know that keeping the buyers happy is the most important thing that we can do in order to benefit our exhibitors. So we now have the ability to configure your buyer pre-registration to occur directly in your auction site. Prior to doing that, if you do have a buyer list, and that buyer list is stored in ShoWorks 2020, then you can confirm your existing buyer list, make sure it has all the data that you're wanting for your buyers that is needed in the auction site. That data includes the mobile phone number. That mobile phone number is what is used for security purposes for the two-factor authentication for buyers to be able to receive a text with the code that they're going to log into the auction site with. That text is really critical for making that process of logging in very smooth. If there is not a mobile phone number in there, then that buyer is going to be calling the fair office, asking them for their code, or they're going to be registering as a new buyer and basically duplicating that buyer entry. A lot of fairs, their very first year of doing this, are deleting their buyer list from their ShoWorks file. This doesn't mean you have to go delete it from all of your historical files. This just means that in the ShoWorks 2020 fair file that you are working in for this year's fair, you would delete it and we would start from scratch. But some of y'all are probably thinking, wait, I've got these top 20 buyers. They're not going to go online and they're not going to register themselves, or they want a specific buyer number and they're not going to be happy if they don't have that buyer number. That is totally fine. If you have that subset of individuals, then they probably desire a phone call anyways. Call them up, get the right information, get the cell number that they would want to use in the case that they do log in online, and get that entered into your buyer table in ShoWorks. That data will come over and be provisioned over into the auction site. Anything that is added or updated will get pushed into the auction site every time you provision. The main goal is to get it to where your buyers can register themselves. Prior to your sale even going live, we have special configuration steps that will take place in order for us to get your site provisioned with basically a placeholder lot, so that your buyers can go ahead and click login and go and do the registration. During an auction, people can always register at any point throughout the auction, but then you also have those buyers that are showing up in person needing to register. I'm going to walk you through what that looks like. Just to show real quickly, if anyone is registering online, most of you that I'm looking at are probably already familiar with this, but people are going to log in. If they're a new buyer, they're going to new buyer register here. Y'all are welcome to go through that process so that you can bid against me later. You'll see all of these fields are actually required to be populated. And then once that is done, the buyer is going to appear in the buyer list, and they will find their name. They should just be able to type, it'll pop up, and they'll request their security code. if at the point that they registered, they will receive a text with that security code. So they'll already have it. And that security code is good for this entire auction. They're going to enter their security code. And once they've done that, oops, they have to agree to the terms and conditions, which is configured by your auction to be whatever you need it to be. Then they can sign in and then they can place bids. So anytime they go to place a bid or an add-on, they can now do it because they're signed in. Let me go back to what happens when a live buyer shows up at my facility. What are we going to do? You're going to have an administrator or administrators. It doesn't matter how many, as long as they have their own computer or their laptop or an iPad, they can access the admin site through a URL. And let's say an individual walks up, you're going to get his name, and you're going to say, oh, Bobby, let me find you. Oh, Bobby, you are already in our system. Let me confirm that I have your information correct. Okay, Bobby Ross, yes, yes. Oh, and here's your phone number. That's fantastic. You agree? Save. Okay, your number is 11. Let me hand you number 11. Then let's say somebody new walks up. They're going to be given the next incremental number in the system. Hang tight, because I know some questions are going to come with this, but you're going to go ahead and you're going to put their information in. You're going to instruct your volunteers who are helping you with this that they need to capture all of the information, because there's not anything requiring these fields when you're going from the admin screen. But if you've got helpers, you need to tell them how important it is to get all of this information in place. So phone number, you're going to say we'd prefer a mobile number. That way you can access the online site, and click save, and that individual gets added. You can see Jane got added. So what happens in the case that you have live buyers showing up and you already have printed numbers 1 through 100? You know you're going to have 100 buyers show up and you have pre-printed numbers 1 through 100, and you want to reserve those for your live buyers. What you're going to do is, at the time that you provision, you need to provision with a buyer at buyer number 101, starting at 101, or something beyond what numbers you already have printed for those that show up. And what's going to happen is when those individuals show up from the admin site only, you are able to go in and modify that buyer number. So let's say that I'm actually going to try and delete one there. Okay, I deleted number 5 just so I'd have something to play with. But you know, that Jane that I just registered, she showed up in person, and I look at my paper stack of entry of buyer numbers, and number 5 is the next one that I'm going to hand out. So I'm actually going to give her number 5, assign her number 5, and I'm going to click save, and I'm going to hand her number 5. It's going to refresh. She's number 5 in there. In the case that number 5 is already assigned out, it is not going to let you duplicate it. So if you have 2 or 3 people working in the system at the same time and they see number 5 is available, but volunteer A just assigned number 5, it's not going to let me do it. Okay. So it says error, buyer number must be unique. So we've put in the logic to keep you from duplicating your buyer numbers. And we also have the logic to make sure that you can hold your numbers for live auction for those individuals showing up. So hopefully this will help with your buyer management immensely. Once you have all of your buyers, they're doing everything they need to in the auction site, everything's being held here in the cloud. Those buyer numbers are really only used in the case of the spotter tool, which I'm going to go into next. So they're important to the buyer who cares about what number that they have, and they're utilized in the spotter tool. So from an online auction perspective, the buyer number really doesn't come into play too much. After the auction is finished, when we go through and clerk your auction, that is when you're going to be given an import file that has your buyers, your buyer transactions, your sales transactions, and any other entry information. And those buyers are going to be imported by you into your ShoWorks, and then you'll have all of your buyer data, all of your transactions in one place ready for billing. If there's any questions on any of this, feel free to go to the Q&A and drop a question in there. I sometimes skip over a few things that might be of interest, but I'm trying to be as thorough as possible. I get a lot of questions about the spotter tool. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on that today. The spotter tool is the hub for all things auction. This is where in a live auction setting or a live auctioneer setting where you have a live auctioneer calling things, you are going to be entering your floor bids. You're going to be marking your lots sold. You're going to be replacing buyers, replacing destinations, and even marking split bids. Let's look at that. So in the spotter tool, we have enhanced it a little bit since the last time most of you had seen it. We now have forward and back arrows to make it easy to go back and forth between the lots in the order that they are up for bid. Before we did not have that, you had to type it in, and we know that you're in a rushed situation when you're trying to accomplish this. So hopefully that makes it easier. We have the default for floor bidder, which is the a buyer that has been set up and does need to be configured in the case that you are hosting a live auction. And what is going to happen there is it allows for that buyer number to already be filled in and to allow somebody to, your clerk, to quickly enter the next bid. When a clerk is entering, they need to only enter the amount and hit enter, and it marks it competitive bid. In this case, you can see we're actually bidding by the pound for this steer. When I entered the amount, it updated, it notified me that it updated, it showed me the highest competitive bid, and it shows me who has the high bidder, who is the high bidder. At the same time, this is occurring as well on, got too free with my samples there. I'm going to show you on a split screen how it is updating as well. There we go. It is updating on the auction site itself, and any of you that are logged in can see that. Every time it goes up, you can see the individual that is bidding against who has the highest bid. So in a live auction setting, the individual clerk that is sitting next to the auctioneer is going to be sitting there. They're going to be entering the amount. If anyone chooses to bid against me from online, that is fine. You go for it. So we can see that. But what's going to happen is the auctioneer is then going to go, going once, going twice, sold. Your auction clerk who is running the spotter tool is going to hit sold. A lot of buttons get enabled at this point. You have the option to reopen it. You have the option to change the destination. Let's say this was not a premium sale and we just discovered that this buyer actually wants it to go to the butcher shop. You can change the destination there. In the instance that you have confirmed the buyer number from the floor, let's say it was, let's stick with number 5, Jane. You would enter the buyer number and just simply replace the buyer. And you can see how it updates here as well as online, so everyone can see the winner of that lot. This is pretty much the way that any updates would occur to an auction, regardless of whether it was live. If you needed to switch out a buyer or change the destination, this tool is what you would use. Let's see. And then once you have that all set, then you go to the next one, and it is going to, you can start placing your bids again. So I've got Sam Wilson Cattle is out there bidding, and from the floor we had an $800 bid. If anyone wants to put a max bid on this one, I invite you to do that, and I will show how that works. Okay. Oh goodness. Okay, did y'all see what I just did there? So Tiffany Burrow has this bid at $1,100. I'm going to go ahead and put $1,200 from the floor, and I must have exceeded her max bid. Let's go check this out on the back end, because as an administrator, you are able to see and confirm exactly what happened in the case that you were to get questioned about what happened. So we were bidding on lot number 3. And you can see Sam Wilson Cattle bid for $700. We had an $800 bid from the floor, a $900 bid from Tiffany Burrow, and she put a max bid of $1,290 on there. The fact that this is marked false, that means that this bid that was placed was manually entered. It was not an auto bid. The next floor bid was $1,100, and Tiffany Burrow came right in behind it because the system automatically bid the next increment up, not exceeding her max bid. So $1,100 is where she got that bid for, and then the floor bidder has it for $1,200. One question that we get is, well, I can see that her max bid was $1,290, so why doesn't she have it at $1,290? When someone places that max bid, it is a max proxy bid. So in the case that the system is going to increment the next bid based on the increments that are set. And in this case, the increments are $100. So $1,100 to go up the next increment is $1,200. And then if we were to go up the next increment amount, it would be $1,300, which would exceed her max proxy bid. So therefore, her last bid is at $1,100. Jumping back to the spotter tool, we're going to go ahead and mark that sold. At the same time that it gets marked sold, it does get marked sold here for everyone online to see. And if we needed to go back and replace the buyer, we've confirmed the buyer from the floor was Linda Stroud. Replace that buyer, and it gets updated for everyone to see. The actions that I just showed, actually, I recommend, especially if you have a large auction and you want to keep things going at pace, I actually recommend having one administrator who is keeping up with the auctioneer. And when they're keeping up with the auctioneer, they are just entering the amount. I'm going to go ahead and go to 4. They're entering the amount, enter, and the amount, enter, and then they mark it sold. And that is their job. That's administrator number 1. They're keeping up with the auctioneer. That is their only role. then a lot of times in a live auction setting, you're going to have an individual who's, or maybe a set of runners, someone who goes out and confirms with that buyer that we just, can you sign the sheet of paper that you just purchased lot number 3 for $1,200, and you want it to go to the butcher shop, processing. So when that runner gets that sheet of paper, or you've confirmed who has received that bid, typically say have a second administrator, and that second administrator is going to be the one that the runners come to, and that second administrator will go back in as those runners come up and say, oh, okay, lot number 1, it was actually, number 5 that purchased it. So let me replace that buyer right now, and let me change the destination. Click save. Okay, good. This is all done. Why do we want to do this real time? We want this done real time for so many different reasons. One is that it will appear on your auction site. All of your buyers are going to get the recognition that they want real time. And then all of your data is already being recorded in your winners table, exactly there, so you can see what is happening. In the case that you need to do a loadout report midway, or you need to know how many animals are going to, the butcher shop itself, you can see the lot destinations and do an export and see that report straight away. And then as soon as the auction's over and you import this data into ShoWorks, you're ready for billing. I think it was KDISD that said they usually take 4 weeks to get their bills out. And this year with the auction, logging everything in this, they were able to get their bills out on Monday. Monday is a lot different from 4 weeks from now. So auction was on Saturday. They got everything out in 3 days. That really helps keeping in front of your buyers, front of mind, collecting payments. You have all of your data there for display. I have a question specifically about the coming in, specifically about the max bidding. I'm going to read it and try and answer it. So, since the proxy bid placed the 1,200 bid first, why wouldn't they win the bid at 1,200 instead of the floor bidder? That is a really good question. So what's happening is you have Tiffany Burrow, who has she put her bid in at 900. The only time that her bid is going to increment up is if someone bids against her. So in this case, it truly went back and forth, and she ended up on the losing side of it. So Tiffany bid for 900, floor bidder 1,000, Tiffany for 1,100. This was the floor bidder that we replaced, but Linda Stroud bid against her for 1,200, and because going up another 100 would exceed her max, she's basically maxed out. So it's because you have to have someone bidding against you. We tried to model it exactly based on, let's say somebody couldn't be present at your auction and they said, here's $2,000, don't go over it. But feel free to bid, up to $2,000. Well, the only time someone is going to, they're wanting in at 500, it's going back and forth, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way. And if somebody else bid that 2,000 first, you didn't get the chance, to bid 2,000. 2,000 was your limit. So it mimics exactly the proxy bid approach. So, are there any other questions about the spotter tool or max bidding? I didn't even think I would go there, but we ended up there. So happy to answer anything associated with that. Let me explain right now how split bids are handled within our system. We've added the capability on the spotter tool to mark a split bid what this does, it kind of toggles back between mark split bid or mark solo bid. But what this does is it really just gives an indicator at this point that split bid was true. If I could spell. Okay, so anywhere where split bid is true, this is similar to any other live situation where you would need to find out from that buyer group or find out from that buyer exactly what their split was. And then you would document that split in ShoWorks. So the original transaction is going to come across, and then it would be able to and then you would have to do that split. We have it on the horizon to incorporate the ability to do that split in the auction, but right now, because ShoWorks handles it so flawlessly, it's really robust in how it handles split bids. I know that what we could do real quickly isn't going to even meet the capabilities there. So we're waiting until we can really roll it out with that same logic. So when a split bid is recorded in the auction site itself, it is truly just an indicator for the administrators to go get more information. I get a lot of questions about, well, whose name should appear if it is a split bid? The majority of situations that I hear about are buyer groups that are buying together. It's people who know ahead of time that they're going to be splitting a bid. And if that's the case, you can add a buyer with that buyer name, that buyer group name. You can do buyer group, but or if you had, if maybe they call themselves something, or maybe it's specific individuals, there is a limit on the characters that you can enter here, but you can put as descriptive as you're able to get to give the give props to these buyers that are doing that. And then you're going to want that one person that is the contact to contact and say, hey, how is this split going to occur? Is it even across all of the participants? Who are the participants, so that you can make sure that you get them accounted for? So that is how split bids is being handled. And now, because a lot of times in that live setting, you are being faced with, all of a sudden they've decided, two individuals on the floor have decided to split. So you have that ability to split. And yes, I would write down in that live setting the split that occurred, so that you can document that and hand that off to the individual who's going to be doing your billing straight out of ShoWorks, in order to ensure that split is captured correctly. One thing, I have a question coming in. If our auction ends on Friday night, will we be able to import the auction and bill that night? Yes. So one thing that we are going to request is that if your auction is ending, which a lot of you do, kind of after hours, or just outside of 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, give us a heads up that you are wanting your data back. And that helps us to know that we definitely do need to get you your data that night. You can shoot us a chat and say, our auction has started and we definitely want our data back tonight. Or you could let us know, ahead of time, and we'll get a task scheduled so that our team is communicating across ourselves to make sure you get that data. And I'm also going to throw into the chat, this is a Calendly link. If you have an upcoming auction, go in there and just book a window of time for when you think your auction is going to be completed. That will just put it onto our support calendar, and you can just indicate, we're going to want our import file back as soon as this is finished. So we try to work in conjunction with the fairs that are communicating with us back and forth, and making sure that we're able to get you everything you need as real time as possible. But we definitely appreciate that communication, so that we can be right there to make sure you get that. sometimes if something pops up in a surprise, we might not be staffed in order to handle it in that time. But if we know, we will definitely do our best to accommodate. We do have a very tight window on Sundays. We limit our team to working only a few hours on Sunday afternoons, trying to give everybody a break. But if you need something on that Sunday, we'll try and work with you to get you what you need. So let's see. Are there any other questions? I'm not seeing any. Last time if you missed the last webinar, I spent a ton of time talking about how to configure ShoWorks in order to bring the data over correctly. So the last webinar, I've actually incorporated it into our playbook. I've incorporated it into our training. I wanted to make sure that I captured all of that as what is happening now, how to configure ShoWorks to best suit your needs. It includes everything. So if you did miss that, I invite you to go check that out. You should have gotten an email with that in your inbox of the replay, but if you did not, shoot me an email at info@showworkscloud.com. That webinar was very meaty. It went longer than the hour I planned because there was so much in it. I did not intend to do that. And then let's see, I'm actually getting one last question. Oh, this is a great lead in, Cynthia Sanders. Is there a pay now button in the works in the online auction? And in the future, can payments be entered in the admin site? I am so excited that you asked this. My next webinar should be covering buyer payments directly through the auction site. We're working with PayPal now, and within the next, we're testing this week, and we should have that enabled definitely for if you have an auction in mid-April and you'd like to be one of the first ones to use it, definitely let us know. But clearly by May 1st, every auction beyond May 1st will have the opportunity to enable buyer payments directly through the auction site, which will save so much work on collections on the back end. So the goal is to get those buyer payments up front. We'll include options for you to pass off any of those bank fees to the supporters, because half the time they're doing this for a donation anyways, and a lot of times they're willing to pick up those fees. So we are definitely in the works of making that happen as we speak. So that is an exciting addition that we'll be going into more in our next webinar. If there's not anything else, I have covered a lot of information. I was glad to be able to do a little bit of focus on some of the spotter tool enhancements, talk about the buyer registration process, where we're incorporating Your Fair logo into the site, and also sponsor recognition. If you have any questions, always email us info@showworkscloud.com or support@showworkscloud.com. You will get me and our whole team to answer your questions. If you email me directly, chances are it might take a little bit longer. So email the team and we will get back with you as soon as we can. I look forward to seeing y'all next time. Thank you for attending. Bye.